Nobby, G0VJG, and I got roped into this Rockall trip. I apologise for the RSGB logo. It's left from the convention show. So, where should we start? So, activating Rockall, it was decided to do this because it was such a rare IOTA. Only 2 previous activations. And it was Europe's #1 most wanted, so that was the reason I got involved in it and wanted to take part. So how and why? I was informed by Cole, MM0UKI, that there was a group of guys looking to go to Rockall. I was given their details. I jumped straight on the phone and spoke to Cam for the first time. He was aware that the importance of Rockall and the interest from the amateur radio community, and was keen to have a radio ham on board on the trip. So after we got talking, I put my name down, and it sort of led on from there. Their main purpose for doing it, there was originally a team of 5, was to raise money for the Royal Navy, Royal Marines, and they had a target of £50,000 they were hoping to make. So I'll go into that a little bit more detail later. Yeah, we can make it full screen, can we? Oh, that's better. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the rock's located 220 miles from the nearest populated area. It's basically the funnel of a volcano that's left. It's extremely hard granite. It's not found anywhere else in the world, and apparently it's the 2nd hardest rock in the world. It's also 430 miles south of Iceland. It's so rare because it's so difficult to land on. It's extremely steep, slippery. The swell is probably the biggest problem. There's often high swells. You know, an average is probably 2 meters to 3 meters swell. So you can imagine a small dinghy trying to get close to that. It's very, very difficult. Up until we went, only 110 people have actually summited Rockall, and a large majority of those were via helicopter, which unfortunately we didn't have. Okay, so it just gives you a little bit of a better idea where it is. You can see on the map, it's sort of plumb out there all on its own. There's nothing else around there apart from there's a small reef nearby, which you have to be very wary of on a yacht. Okay, so the original plan when we first started talking and arranging things, we were going to go in 2022. We had a contract with a sailing yacht. It was all looking good, and then with very, very little notice, they decided to withdraw because it was too dangerous. They said there was too much equipment and they weren't too keen on the risk factor, and they pulled out. So we desperately tried to find another boat short notice, but these boats have to have a special skipper with a special license. Just to have a 0 rated because it's more than 150 miles off of the mainland. And those guys, they're always busy. They've always got work. They've always got contracts. They've always got something on. And at short notice, you just can't get anybody. So we postponed for a year. But in the meantime, we decided not just to waste the time. We would do a dry run and find a similar type rock and just practice the whole thing. So we went down to Cornwall, to Newquay, to Goose Rock, which is literally less than probably half a mile offshore. But it's a similar type rock. It's quite high, it's jagged, it's horrible, and it's uninhabited, no running water, very similar really in a lot of respects. So you can see how far it is from the shore. That's a picture taken on Goose Rock, looking across to Cornwall. And we wanted to try out the land pod. The land pod was kindly donated by them They cost £5,000. It was given to us. We were hoping to auction it afterwards, but it's now at the bottom of the sea. So it never came back. So we spent 4 days there, and we had quite an experience there. We were advised by the Coast Guard. They came and saw us and said that there was 50-mile-an-hour plus winds coming in, and they didn't want us out there. So we cut our expedition there a day short, and we actually had to leave all our equipment there as well. And it actually spent a month there before we was able to get back in decent conditions and all be able to get back down to Cornwall to retrieve it. Whilst we was there, we had an expert mountaineer with us. He's only a young guy, but he's already climbed every peak over 8,000 metres in Pakistan. James Price, real clever guy, and really knows his stuff, and installed us with a load of confidence. And we done quite a number of hours practicing, climbing and just climbing actual ropes and lots of different methods. So we had an idea of different ways of doing it. I have actually done some climbing practice myself. I've had half a dozen lessons that I did while I was training, and I did used to do it when I was a lot younger as well. So I've got a little bit of experience of climbing. So yeah, there's a picture of the Ugly Goose Rock. It's not very nice. It's actually worse than Rockall. It's really jagged and sharp, and it's very difficult to move around. I don't recommend it for your holiday. And it doesn't have an IOTA number as well. Well, it does, EU5. Not really worth the risk. So that's the land pod. The land pod comes in a kit. It's just made with 4x3 timber and planks, plastic waste pipes. It is, you can't see it in that picture, but it has a heavy, thick insulation layer and extremely thick, heavy-duty canvas to waterproof it. Okay, so later in the year, I managed to, I was charged with the job of finding a boat, and I tried many, many different places. And as soon as you mention Rockall, no one wants to do it. But I got hold of this guy, this Glenn Porter, and I spoke to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, my dad's a radio ham." He said, I brought up with a huge beam on my house, and he said, "I'm not a radio ham," but he said, I know all about DX and stuff. He said, I'd like to help you. I'd be interested." So I thought, "Really? Do you?" So that was great. So he we after negotiating and a bit of a plan and run all that past him, he agreed to do it. His ship, or yacht should I say, is quite old. It's about 20 years old, but it's been used in around the world yacht races. It's been on that 4 times, and it regularly goes to Iceland, the Faroes. It's been across the Caribbean, so it's been in some serious seas, and it's a sturdy old vessel. So you can see her there. That's in the dock at Greenock. Every orifice on that boat was full up with equipment. We had so much equipment, a lot of stuff strapped to the deck. For our safety plan, we had to have all the fuel strapped to the back, so we could on one rope, so we could quickly dump the whole lot if there was a fire or an incident. So after many months of phone calls and planning, we used Zoom a lot. So we did a lot of Zoom meetings to arrange stuff. We finally, at our team, James Price got trapped on a mountain in Pakistan, and he lost all his toes. So that kind of inflicted his climbing ability. So he dropped out. But fortunately, I had been introduced to Emil, or he introduced himself to me in Friedrichshafen the previous year. And he said, I'd like to come on this Rockall trip. And I said, look, there's 5 of us, we're the team's full, but if anything comes up. So this place came up, and I knew he was really good at mountain climbing. I didn't realise how good he was. And, so I phoned him up, and he just said yes. you know, straight away he was in, and he really was an integral part of the team. He really knows his stuff, and of course he's not only a climber, he's a real good first-class CW operator as well, and he's done lots of expeditions, so lots of experience in that. So it was really good to get Emil on the team as well. And there he is. That is a typical Emil, smiling away. I've got one picture of him where he isn't smiling, which is very rare. He's a real happy guy. So we also had a lot of backing from various people. Harry Brayford is sort of out the limelight, but behind it all, we did all our IT stuff, all our Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Anything we wanted, he did all that for us and done a great job. We had a lot of help. I mean, this was not a cheap expedition. I mean, nothing like Ronald's hundreds of thousands or anything, but a lot of money for just a few guys. And we had many clubs donate small amounts and big amounts, and I'd like to thank GMDX as well for their donation. They helped us as well. But we also received lots of other help. We had lots of private individual companies, nothing to do with amateur radio at all. I mean, our boots were supplied by Danners, and we had trousers and hats and T-shirts, and the list is there. Satellite phones, VHF radios from Yaesu, bottles of whiskey. We even had a portledge from, I think it's Black Mountain in Germany, and the idea was we were going to put a ledge, our own ledge, on the thing to make more room, but we just didn't have time to do it. We took it all the way and never used it. Spider Beam sponsored us with some poles and QSL cards from LZ2SJ, is it JS? I can't really shoot me now, I've forgotten his call sign, from Tony. So he's always sponsored us and backed us. He's a good guy. And we had a GoFundMe page running as well, which got lots of donations from lots of individuals, and quite a few ex-military guys chipped in. So yeah, that's a picture of the dreaded rock. There's the fault line there is the main route up, but I'll go into the route in a minute. There's another slide for that. Yeah, so it all began on the 25th of May. We were loaned a van for free of charge from Aaron, the cameraman. We had two camera guys. They're both experienced. They're only young guys, not long out of university, but they've already won a film award at the Cannes Film Festival. They got first prize for youth film. So they're very up and coming, and they're going to do well. So they came along. Myself and Emil, we flew into Glasgow, and they were collected by Cole from DX World. He kindly offered to pick us up and drive us down to Kip Marina. And there was where we loaded up the boat. We had quite a nice amount of people show up to see us off. We had the press, the Guardian was there. We had quite a lot of interest from the BBC and stuff like that, sent reporters and the like. So that's the van. We used these blue barrels and white barrels. We had 5 white barrels, 11 blue barrels, plus lots of dry bags and duffel type bags, and I think we had 7 canisters of water, which were 25, no, not 25, might be 50 litres, were quite sizable. And the water is a problem. The water's very heavy, but you need to take it all because there isn't anything drinkable there. So yeah, there's a van that had the majority of the equipment in. Okay, so yeah, at this stage I'm going to show you a little video, and I'll go into the climbing afterwards. So let me just see if I can bring that up. 2 seconds. No, it's not coming up on there, John, so it'll do that. I won't get that up on it. I need to So this video is about 42 minutes long, so I'm not only going to show you a snippet of it because of the time factor, so I need to get you up to about 15 minutes. Because you'll see a video of me spewing up, otherwise you don't really. I'm going to spare you that, so I'm just going to let this run for 10 minutes. So it looks pretty scary, doesn't it? So this is the first attempt. You'll notice that Emil doesn't have his dry suit on. We had dry suits that were very expensive, paid for by my boss. He wanted us to come back. The sea is extremely cold. It's 10 Celsius, so you wouldn't last too long in there, maybe an hour.
Come on quickly guys, need to get these knots off quicker.
That boat is a special boat. The bottom is completely metal, so it's not like the normal sort of plastic stuff. So, and you'll see it's very useful because there's actually a huge gouge in the bottom of that boat where it was up on the rock like this. There's a huge gouge about 3 foot long in the bottom of that now. So that's a sheer, one side is completely sheer straight drop.
Wait. 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 Go! Okay. Okay? You okay? Okay, good man. Stand by.
This is second attempt, now with the dry suit on.
I need you to grab him.
This is perfect conditions, by the way. This is as good as it gets. Third attempt.
Go!
That's where the boat got damaged there. Tipped right up. 10 Celsius. It's fresh. It hasn't been snowing there.
I don't know where they are. Still down on the ship, on the vessel. There should be 10 ratchet straps, 1 ton ratchet straps. The radiator's very low on that, it's just shining red. What is... You need to get a message to people.
Yeah, we need to do that. Right, so we need to look for the solar cube eyeball, which is
Real.
Yeah.
We made it.
You made it. We made it.
We nearly died, but we made it.
these flashes are too bloody short. I need to try and find a charger for the VHF radio.
How badly did it smell?
That wasn't too bad actually, get used to it after a while.
Rockall, 30th of May 2023. Nobby, Ken, and I we are here. Hard climbing up. 3 times try, 3 times fall on the water, into the water. Successful now, we are all here, we're all safe. And we prepare our camp. You bring the last speeches.
A meal.
Yeah. Inside of the box.
So is that mine in that black? What about my roll up black? I haven't seen that.
But I think this one's better to fix.
Don't ask about EMF.
That's got my name on it, so that'll be the kit, mate. I'm going to get a check on my... Roll it up.
So that pod, you could normally put it up in an hour, but in those places there, you've got to be so careful. You're hanging over the edge of the cliff.
Tie.
But we put a safety rope round and we're all attached to the rock.
Just worried I can't see it. It could get a bit cold.
On that last run, it was in there's 2 bins, one of them had Nobby style and one of them had just making it. So it should be in there, but please do double check.
Oh, right, yeah, super. Okay, yeah, sorry. Cheers. This is Mike Zero, United Kilo Italy. Echo Uniform 189, Rockall D Expedition, 5 to 10 up. Florida 4, Hotel Radio 59. 73, QRZ up. Who's the Victor Kilo? Oscar November 8, Victor Kilo, thanks, 59. Greetings from Rockall. This is Mike Zero, United Kilo Italy, listening up, 510. Radio 4, Germany, Mexico, thanks, 59. Radio 4, Germany, Mike, QSL, thanks, 59. Pakar, QRZ up. Yeah, who's the Germany, the G station? Yeah, Germany 3, something Mike Alpha. Try again. Germany 3, is it Kilo Mike Alpha?
Okay, now just going to move it on a tiny bit more. 28.
Press GPS. Synchronize. The antenna from Rick.
Alistair's a yacht master.
Rick antenna.
Alistair's a yacht master and a cruising instructor, and he was vomiting in the sink.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So we had concerns from the RSPBB about the birds, but the birds weren't bothered about us one bit. They just sat there and thought, what are these funny looking orange birds? Yes. Quite a lot. So yeah, I think that was all I wanted to show you on that. This is why we didn't work any 1 and 2 meters. We're trying to do EME there. Not really joking. So that was the birds, they were just above our head, and so they didn't show any interest in us whatsoever, which was really amazing. One, two, 1, 2, 1, 2, yeah? Is that okay? Good. Okay, so that's the route we climbed. There was 2 different routes. I incidentally got on first go. I don't do all that getting in the water, it's too cold. So I was really lucky. The boat came in, I was right on the end, and I just saw the opportunity to jump and bang, got on. And this is the route I took with Emil. I think I'm going to tell you about it. You'll see a slide later on where I've got all this written down, but I'll tell you now. So the red route is the route I followed. It's quite hard to see from that picture, but the piece right in the middle where the big opening is an overhang. And Emil was in front of me, above me, and I couldn't see him, and he couldn't see me. But lucky enough, we both had VHF radios, and the rope got stuck on below me somewhere, and I just couldn't free it. And Emil was saying, release the rope. I need more rope. I can't climb. And I just couldn't do it, and I was hanging on, and I was tired, and I was shaking, and I was scared. You could hear the waves crashing underneath, and I thought, oh my God, what am I doing here? I must be mad. And Emil is getting more and more annoyed, and he's shouting, I need more rope. And I'm saying, I can't release the peep rope. So anyway, eventually he climbed back down and came beneath me and managed to get the rope loose, and we managed to climb up. But it took a while. This was, the whole exercise was very time consuming. The boat was 500 meters away. Every time that we had a failed attempt at landing, he had to go back to the boat, get changed, come again, and it took a really long time. People thinking, oh well, they've arrived, why aren't they on the air? But it actually took from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight before we got on the air. So that was it, getting up the equipment. I mean, I'll tell you a bit more about the equipment run in a minute. So when Cam came up, Cam almost didn't make it. He came a different route, a much more direct route. He came along the red line and then up the yellow line. But as you go up that yellow line, it's extremely steep and there's no holds, hardly at all. We got halfway, almost to the hall's ledge, but he couldn't go any further, and he was hanging on. He was there for ages, and me and Emil were standing at the top saying, come on, do this. And he's going, no, I just can't hang on. I've got no more energy. I'm just going to have to drop in the sea. And we're going, no, don't do that. And Emil again managed to go down and rescue him and drag him up the last 10 feet of the rock. So we all got there, but he was convinced that he was done and he was just going to drop in the sea. So we was actually going to swim round it, me and Cam. We had a thing that we said we'd have a race to swim round the rock, but it was so hard to get up there. They thought there's no way we're coming back down till we're going home. Should that not? Ah, right, okay, sweet. Okay, so it gives you a better idea of the scale of it. So we had to have a lot of the barrels hanging over the edge because we just didn't have any room. You just couldn't move. Down the side of that pod, I operated hanging over the end of that rock where you see me in the red coat there, or Cam, it might be Cam. You almost had to half go up the cliff there to get past that. It was a very, very little space. And you can see the red rope there. That's where we went up that fault line. And you can see the little overhang there. We had to climb up underneath that, which was quite tricky. Yeah, I didn't say too much about the journey out there. It was pretty. Well, you actually took 4 days to get there, but 2 days of it we were wasting time because we knew the weather wasn't the best, and we sort of took a very leisurely sail from UKIP through the sort of inner waters. And made several stops, only done a few hours a day. But once we actually started the serious journey, we came out around the M0UKI, and I was sick as a dog. I was like really rough. Most of the guys were sick. There was 9 of us. I think there was 5 were badly seasick. 1 was almost just passed out for 2 days. He wasn't sick, but he was virtually unconscious. And even though it got calm as we got nearer the rock, there was a nice high pressure over the rock. So the further out we got, the nearer the rock we got, it actually got a lot better. But as you can see, we had some sunshine. Okay, so there's nowhere to anchor the boat. The sea, as I said, was 2,000 meters deep, so you need a bloody long chain for that. So we had like a drag anchor. It's like a big parachute underneath the boat. And for that reason, we had to park the boat quite a long way from the rock, at least 500 meters. And it had to be 2 people on watch all the time, just to make sure it wasn't drifting too close to the rock. Or there's also quite a big reef, maybe half a mile away as well. So it sunk a few ships. I think one of the worst British disasters was there. There was over 600 people killed on that rock back at the turn of the century. So, yeah, that's I said about the water temperature and stuff. Okay, so that's why I wanted to show you the video because it doesn't really do it justice. The getting on there, that seaweed is so slippery. It's almost impossible to hold on to it. And then when you get on the top, you've got the other added problem that the guano on the top, when it's dry, it's fine. But if you get mist in the morning or a light shower, it's like ice. It's so slippery. So, of course, when you're right close to the edge of the cliff, that's not ideal. There's a poor old Mill taking a bath. And yeah, he was very keen to wear that dry suit on the 2nd attempt. So yeah, took 3 attempts, but we got there in the end. Okay, so that's the pod. So that took a long time to build. Like we're in such a small confined space. When we practiced putting it up in the garden, we did it in an hour easy. But there, it just took a lot longer. You just had to be aware of your surroundings all the time and make sure you're lashed onto the. We had a rope system going all the way around the edge and just clipped on all the time, which was part of our safety stuff. Okay, it was a really hard climb actually. I mean, I'm not a top expert climber, but even Emil said he found it difficult. He actually fell off at one point and was dangling from a rope. He slipped, and obviously the rope system he set up saved him. But he was swinging like this, like a pendulum off the rock at one point. And he managed to get back on. So, so I mean, he's an expert climber. Yeah, I told you about the rope getting stuck. Okay, so just a few pics there of the climb. Plenty of guano. Yeah, when we loaded the gear on the rock, we did it from the rib. So again, the boat's 500 meters away. You can only get 2 or 3 barrels of gear in that rib at a time. Originally, the plan was to take a petrol-driven winch, small petrol-driven winch, but somehow it never made it into the kit. I don't know why. I didn't even know until we arrived at the rock we didn't have it. The idea was we were going to drill a couple of holes in, bolt the winch to the rock, and just winch everything up with a petrol winch. But we never had that, so we physically did it all by hand, by rope. We had just a drop-down hook and winched it up by hand, which I did most of it. Apart from the really heavy stuff, the barrels of water were so heavy. That took all 3 of us to pull 1 barrel up, and I think we had 7 barrels of water in total. So it took a lot of time, hours and hours of going backwards and forwards from the boat, 2-3 barrels at a time, pulling it up, and then waiting for them to get back to the boat, reload the boat, come back again. And this is why I remember when the Belgium guys did it, I was at home and I was listening to the pilot on the boat, and I thought, oh, they've arrived, they'll be on in an hour. And, you know, what the bloody hell are they doing? Why is it taking so long? But it's they now realise from my experiences the amount of work involved. It's not a 5-minute job. Yeah, so we first got the air at midnight. We both started up at the same time. Again, you can see that there's very little spare room. It's very cosy, that pod. It's designed for 2, and all 3 of us slept in there. And Emil had his radio station in there because we put 1 station in the pod and the SSB station out the back. So yeah, that's a picture of the inside the pod. As you can see, it is tight. There's not hardly any room. You've got to sleep with your legs curled up. We didn't really get hardly any sleep anyway, but the little bit of sleep we did have, it was pretty cosy and smelly. That's me operating in the night there. So yeah, Mill fired up on 20 meters. We only had 100 watts with a Yaesu FT857. Each took the same radios. We had three radios. We had a spare. You basically got to take spare of everything. We had spare mics, spare everything. By the time we'd got on the air, we'd been up for I don't know how many hours, like a whole day. So we were really knackered before we even started. But we was keen to get on the air and make the most of every opportunity. So spend as much time on air as possible. I started on 40 at midnight, and I say it was actually reasonably sleepy, the pile-up, because everybody had gone to bed. I think they'd given up on us. We did have some issues, like every other expedition, with QRM. I wonder why there was some well-known guys that I know well had called me and I'd worked them. And then they were calling me again, 1 minute later. And I'm thinking, well, we've had a report, and it was because we had an idiot playing music on the transmit frequency. And so, yeah, we had a little bit of that, but as Ronald said earlier, you just got to go through it and just keep going and hope they get fed up with it. If you move, they're only going to follow you, so you just got to battle on and try and finish as many QSOs as you can. So yeah, just a couple of little pics. So you'll notice that a mill station is all neat, tidy, all secured to a board. And mine is just slung anywhere, and we have different operating techniques, but they both stations work really well. The antennas were very simple. Emil's had a multi-band dipole made by one of his German colleagues, and a tune. I think it was C500 or something. And I had a vertical antenna that I made, which was just a 10-meter pole with coiled wire around it and some counterpoise wires. And I had a MAT 40 tuner as well, so I was pretty much able to tune that up anywhere I wanted to go. And yeah, that guano, when it's dry, it goes to like powder, and it gets everywhere. And just breathing it in, it's not very nice, but you get used to it. So yeah, that was my operating position, sitting on the edge of the rock there, strapped to the rock in case I fall asleep or slip off. I was very lucky. We only had rain, I think, once while we was there, so I just put a tarpaulin over the top, obviously because I didn't want the equipment to get wet or ruined. There was one time I had to stop in the middle of a pile-up. My laptop had got splattered by a seagull offering a gift from the heavens, and I had to ask everybody to QRX while I went and found some wipes, and I had to give the laptop the kiss of life to get back on. Yeah, it was a direct hit on my laptop, which is this one here. It's now clean. This is the laptop. And that is Emil after about 50 hours on the air, looking absolutely shattered. I mean, that man is a machine. He just doesn't sleep. He just goes and goes and goes. And I was like, that's the only time I've seen him not smiling. Okay, so there's some stats. We've done 7,227 Qs in all. Conditions weren't particularly fantastic. They was okay for Europe, but DX wise, we tried several times to work DX only and just were left with blanks, but our equipment was limited. I mean, there's no chance of fitting up a beam or anything like that. Hex Beam offered us a beam for free to take, but you can imagine the difficulties trying to set up a hex beam on that rocket. It'd been impossible. So we just kept it very simple, just wires and no amplifier. We took two small generators, 1,000 watt Hondas, which one of us is now at the bottom of the sea. We did all right. We had a few little runs into North America, which we were quite pleased with. All the DX stations were really pleased, because I think in previous expeditions hardly any DX has ever been worked, so it's all been Europe. So it was good to give a few DX guys a new one, which is what we like doing. So you can see the stats. FT8 was not the most successful mode on this trip. Me and Emil both hate FT8 really, although we both do it. It's not really our thing. So Emil the machine was the top op by a mile. He really did well. And SSB, we've done about 1,500 Qs. So that's a breakdown in the modes. And star band was 20. There was one QSO made on 12, and only 18 QSOs made on 6, of which 3 of them are in this room. So well done, those guys. We tried on 6, but we only had a dipole. We should have took a beam really, but we only had a dipole, and spent a bit of time on it, and it just wasn't really paying out. So, but they were the first ever QSOs on 6 meters from Rockall. No top band, I hasten to add. Okay, so that's the whole team. one of the things we had on this trip, the team was 100% together. The boat crew were really focused, really helpful, really involved, and that really made a difference. I've heard other expeditions say they've been on boats and the crew are not really interested and grumpy and moaning. These guys couldn't have done enough. If anyone ever wants to do any island hopping, I really recommend these guys. They're really great. Yeah, we left Cam on the rock, sailed off after our 3 days of activation, and his main thing was to break the record, 42 days on the rock. He had supplies for 60 days. So we wished him farewell and good luck with that. But it didn't really end too well for Cam, which I'll tell you about. So, where are we? So yeah, after 32 days, there was a huge storm which lasted 2 days. The waves were crashing up along up the side of the rock, and they were going up into the floor of the land pod, and they were pushing all the floorboards up and flooding everything in the pod. And they were actually going over the top of the pod. So Cam had to climb onto the top. There's like a 10-foot wall behind us there. He had to climb the top and strap himself onto what was the lighthouse that's no longer there because that got washed away. But there's actually like a metal structure part of it left. And he stayed up there all night. But because he was soaking wet and it was windy, he reckoned he was suffering from hypothermia. So he had to make the call. He called out on the VHF radio, but of course the distance you can get is maybe 25 kilometres. There's no ships in sight. So he had to go down, salvage the satellite phone and make an SOS call. It was very lucky because when we went, we contacted the Coast Guard and we told them what our plans were, what we were doing, and they said that you're on your own when you're out there. There's no helicopter can reach there. It's too far. The distance is too much. But obviously this was a year later, and since then they'd got a brand new helicopter with an extended range, but it could only just get to Rockall. They'd done the maths on it. They had to do an equation. This is why it didn't get there till 6 o'clock in the evening. I think he phoned in about 8 a.m. and he actually got rescued at 6 p.m. because they had to look at the maths, and they decided that they would fly from Stornoway to somewhere else, top the fuel up and then fly. And they said that they got 10 minutes to lift him off. If they don't get him off in 10 minutes, then they'll have to leave him. So they came out, they got him off in 5 minutes, but that's why no equipment was took at all, just Cam, left absolutely everything behind. And they got back with 10 minutes flying time, so there wasn't too much room for error. But he was back safe and well and recovered. So yeah, the wildlife, I've showed you a few clips. The whales were regular visitors every day. They came round for a feed up, and you could actually smell their breath. They'd go right under the rock. You could smell their fishy breath. Of an evening, dusk time, the sea used to bubble around the rock with the little fish. They were like feeding on the bugs in the seaweed, and there was just like thousands of small fry fish around there, and that's why they came round. We saw a number of seals and dozens of different birds. Again, the RSPCB said, we shouldn't go because there's going to be bird flu and all this, and there could be dead birds everywhere. We didn't see a single wheel bird or anything. They was all in really good shape, actually. Right, okay. Nearly there, I think. Okay, so that's the sat phone system, which was loaned from Idrim. Basically, you don't have a single sat phone anymore. You have a block, and your normal iPhone or your smartphone, you just log into it, and I think you can use up to 4 or 5 phones off the one system. So that was very useful. That's also now at the bottom of the sea. I think we lost over 20 grand's worth of equipment. We lost sat phone, VHF radios. The biggest loss was the film camera you saw. That's over 10 grand's worth of camera. That's gone. We had a tracking device on that which lasted 90 days. It's in a penny case, so it might show up one day. It should float in theory. The generator, which was brand new, and lots of personal effects. I mean, all those barrels, they was all donated. They are like 35 quid each. So all that sort of stuff, that was all gone. So they're going back out to the Rock on the 19th of April. This will be our third attempt to recover anything that's left, but there's very little left. We've had some photographs from local fishing boats, and there's no sign of the pod. There's several ropes hanging down, and it looks like there's something left on the back of this ledge, but I'm hoping it's my generator. But we can't be sure, so hopefully the guys will get back out there. They're going to put up some plaques. They never got put on, so we've cut a couple of, if you see there, the plaque there, we've cut a couple of slots for plaques, one from the military donations that we've made, and one for the amateur radio community to say what we did and the dates. That's the typing back in the harbour. I thought I had a picture there of all the barrels and that strapped on it, but doesn't look like it. Oh yes, so a little bit about training. So that's me in my hot tub at home at 10 Celsius in January. I actually had the lid off that overnight, and there was a thin layer of ice on the top of it. I had to break the ice before I got in it, and I'd done 15 minutes in there, and that was, the first 2 minutes is really painful. It actually gives you a shooting headache. It's horrible. And so I'd done 15 minutes, and that was enough. So as I said, my boss supplied us with 3 of the dry suits. They were made to measure by a local company who gave us a bit of a discount. I went to my local swimming pool, so I'd never experienced one. I didn't know what it was going to be like, because they're supposed to be very flotatious. And they said, oh yeah, come down. And what people must have thought, they had a bit of the swimming pool roped off for me. Thought, what's this lunatic doing, jumping in his yellow suit? But I gave it a little go and tested it out, and it was very good. I also did some running. I was doing sit-ups, push-ups every day before I went. Bit of work down the gym and stuff. So I did try and get in a bit of shape because I thought it was going to be quite a physical challenge. And I'm not spring chicken anymore, so I wanted to get toned up a little bit for the trip. So yeah, that's a picture of the said helicopter. And I think I told you all about that. About we didn't take any equipment back. So Nick Hancock, who holds the existing record, which I think is something like 42 days, still holds the record. So if anyone wants to try and break it, there's your target. 42 days on a barren, uninhabited, smelly rock. So yeah, I've got a few thank yous, if I could just quickly whip through them. So MM0UKI has been absolute first class. I recommend if anyone wants a QSL manager, he's the business. He's organised everything, all the cards, any correspondence, all that stuff saves you a lot of headaches. Tony LZ1JZ supplied all the QSL cards. They're a nice double card. He done a great job, so we're pleased with that. Harry, who done all our IT and social media stuff, webmaster, etc. The film crew, Aaron and Bryn, they didn't want to go back on the second attempt. They'd had enough of Rockall. Aaron was the one who was unconscious all the way there. He was never sick, but he was just zombified. He was in a really bad state, so he's worse than me. And the crew of the typing, I couldn't tell you all their names, but 2 of them were volunteers. What they do, you have 2 paid crew, so you have the skipper and the first mate who are paid, and then they advertise for people who want to notch up their sailing experience, and they seem to get plenty of lunatics that want to go out to Rockall. So Nick, G4 Italy Whiskey Oscar, he was our pilot. We used to have a daily phone call on the sat phone with him, and they used to tell us what was going on at the other end of the pile-up. And as you're probably all aware, my IT knowledge is zero. So my 11-year-old granddaughter Amelia made this PowerPoint, so she's done a good job of that. It says there she's my favourite granddaughter, and there's a reason for that. I have 9 grandchildren, but I only have 1 granddaughter. And we've just had a new addition, and she was really anxious it was going to be a girl, but it wasn't. It was another boy. So she's still my favourite granddaughter till further notice. So that's pretty much it. I don't know anyone. Have we got time for questions? A couple of questions?
Yes, Nobby. Yes, we've got time for a few questions, and we've got a roving mic, so please use the mic.
Excellent presentation, thanks very much. Was there any sign of the 1955 plaque put there by the Navy?
I don't know. I can't remember. There was about 4 or 5 plaques on there. The original one that was that big green one when they said it was, to the UK crown. That's there. I don't know if that's the one you mean, but there are several that are missing as well. We're actually replacing one for a diving expedition that went there in '92. Bill Clark, and he's given us another one to replace his one that's missing. No worries.
Nobby, Tom, Jim for FDM. You said you lost £20,000 worth of equipment down on the seabed. Was that insured, or is that just a loss?
No, we couldn't get any insurance. I tried to insure my life because my missus was a bit worried about going, and we couldn't find anybody to insure us at all. It's pretty uninsurable. So.
Did the Taiping stand by the whole time you were operating?
Yep, the Taiping stood by, yeah, which I was quite pleased about. They were talking about going and leaving us there, but after some negotiations, yeah, they just floated around for 3 days and drifted around and waited for us.
Any more questions?
Oh, just one other thing I wanted to add as well. We didn't raise 50,000. We made up just under 25,000 for charities, so we were quite pleased with that. I mean, we originally started off with £1 million was our original start off, and it's just so difficult to get money out of people. So, but we were pleased to get that. So we raised 25,000, and I think we also, out of our donations and stuff, we raised about 13,000 for the cost of the boat and some of the equipment and stuff and food.
Right,
etc.
I've got a question. What was your wife's reaction when you said you were going there?
Yeah, she wasn't overly enthused. Yeah, she sort of knew of Rockall, and my kids were the worst. They were really anti it. And when I went back the second time, there was a bit of a family debate. But when they heard there was a third trip, my wife said, "That's it. You're definitely not going." So that was the end of my decision making, and I've been banned from going back.
Any others? Okay, please thank Nobby for a fantastic